Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We're going to go through how to land your dream job in the UK. We're lucky we've got two consultants from London on as well. I guess I'll just go to the next slide. But yeah, we'll just run you through ourselves. My name's Olivia. I'm based in Melbourne in Australia. I'm originally from New Zealand and primary trained as a teacher, and I moved to London pretty soon after I finished my degree. So I lived in London for 2 years. Moved home and now I live in Melbourne, where I've been working with ANZUK for the last 3.5 years. So I work on the global team. So I help support those moving from Australia, New Zealand and Canada, going to the UK.
Good morning, everyone. My name's George. I am from Auckland, New Zealand. I'm a PE teacher by trade, moved over to London about 2 years ago and have just been working in the office basically and learning a new trade, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. But yeah, I'll pass it over to James.
Thanks, George. Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to virtually meet you. I'm James. I'm also from Auckland, New Zealand. I'm a primary school teacher. I taught for 5 years back home, came over to London, taught for a whole year in the same school here. So I have had that long-term kind of experience here as well. And now I work at ANZUK on our Northeast team, working with schools in that area, but we're all very collaborative. So no matter where you kind of live in London, we can help you out. Nice to meet you.
Perfect. So what we'll be covering today, like how the name is explained, how to land your dream job in the UK. Understanding the school system over there, the term dates, a little bit around kind of where we're based. We won't be going in too much into like the life admin, like the visa side of things and things like that. Just talking about where we're actually based and how we can help you and support you. Things like updating your CV, making sure you're all prepared for roles and things like that, and the various work opportunities that we have at the moment. But if you have any questions, feel free to just pop them in the chat or send them through. We'll take your mic off and ask them. But there'll be questions at the end as well that we can run through. But a quick little overview for anyone that's actually new to ANZUK. We've been around for just over 20 years now. We support educators across the globe. We've got offices, obviously Australia and the UK, as well as New Zealand and the States. We've got, over 300 staff globally. In terms of the UK, which we'll touch on a little bit, where we're actually based. Supporting people throughout their teaching journeys.
So why teach abroad? I've been told a few of you are already over here, but obviously everyone kind of comes over for their own reasons. Myself personally, probably more personal growth and life experience, the travel, the opportunities that London can give you with Europe on the back doorstep and things like that. But just personal growth as well, just building as a person. It's a completely different world over here. So it is quite interesting, cultural and stepping outside your comfort zone, all those sorts of things. So as well as giving you, potential opportunities for career development, just being a different spectrum as a whole, especially teaching myself secondary schools when I first moved over, I found it quite different. So, but exciting nonetheless. But everyone kind of has their own reasons. We've kind of just, I guess, summarized it into the three main there. But I guess it's all about just opportunities that can arise from teaching in London and abroad.
Perfect. So I guess a quick overview of the steps in your journey. Some people I think are going through this at the moment with us. Some people are not familiar. But essentially you'll have someone in your home country that you speak with. So someone like me. And then we also pop you in touch with someone in the UK on whichever office that you're looking to go to. So for example, if you're heading to London, where George and James are, you'll be speaking with someone called Delaney. She's our international arrival consultant. And she supports all those moving to London specifically from overseas. So you've got both that support from both locations. We'll speak through your plans, answer any questions that you obviously will have. And then I guess the interview process can start within that journey as well. Some people ideally, do want roles before they head over. Depending on time of year, we can definitely help with that. The team, so like James and George, will be emailing you with roles that match what you're kind of looking for. Those roles can be set up, which we'll go into in a little bit before you leave or for when you land as well. We have a compliance team who work in the UK, and they start that around 2 months out. Again, depends, everyone's journey is a little bit different, and how long we have to do that. Compliant, make sure that's all good, and then you're cleared for work. So, everyone's journey, like I said, looks a bit different. Some people we work with are leaving within 12 months. Some people are leaving within a week. So it's all different for everyone. And in terms of where we are actually based in the UK, largely in the south. So London is, I guess, like our head office. That's where most people we naturally move to in the UK through us. And we also service Surrey and Essex, which are the regions just out of London. We have an office over in Bristol as well, which is on your southwest coast, and then an office in Newport, Wales, which is like super close to Cardiff. And then we have an office down in Southampton as well, which is at the very bottom. So we also can assist with contract options in areas such as like Manchester and Birmingham, or more regional locations that we don't have an office in as well. But that's just for contracts.
So the academic year in the UK looks a little bit different to what it does look like back home. Obviously, this is due mostly to where summer falls in the UK. So right now we're just about to finish the academic year. So obviously back home, you start Jan, Feb, and finish November, December. Here you go from September through to August. So we're about to have our big summer break now, and then schools will start off again for the 25-26 academic year, September 1st. And another big difference compared to back home is that there is only 3 terms as opposed to 4, although every term, so for example, autumn 1 is split into, the autumn term, the first term there, is split into 2 terms. So you have a week off in between each term. Yeah, and then as you can see, there's quite a few bank holidays, what they call over here, same as public holidays back home, for some little days off here and there, which is always nice.
Is there like a good arrival time that people like for contracts and things? Like, do you want to explain that?
Yeah. Well, I think around this time, so your May, June, July is when a lot of roles for September start popping up. So if you are if you've already arrived, that's great because we can organize trials and interviews, things like that. If you're on the way, when I came over, I did an online interview from an airport in Europe somewhere. So this is kind of the time that everyone's moving over, but also the time that the schools are really looking ahead to the next year and wanting to get everything organized. So these next couple months are big for interviews and things like that. The UK school system is divided up into key stages. I'm not going to read all of this through because I know that you guys are all capable of reading yourselves. But we have our early years foundation, key stage 1 and 2, which is primary, and key stages 3 to 5, which is secondary there. Often people teach across the key stages. So if you back home, if you're primarily a primary school teacher, you might be open to teaching key stage 1 and 2, but that's not to say that you can't teach in in early years or maybe even lower secondary as well. But those are our key stages. And these are some of the schools that we work with. So mainstream state schools, I guess, would be called your public schools back home. Those are probably the most common. Then, of course, there's on the other side of that, there's private/independent schools. Academies are organized by a trust. So a trust is kind of like a collective or a group of schools. They might do things a little bit differently as opposed to being governed by the local authorities. So for example, if your school was in the Haringey borough here in London, if you had a trust in that area, they might do things a little bit different. They look after their own curriculum. They might change pay a little bit more, but an academy is a school and a trust. Then we have our special education needs schools as well. A PRU school, which is pupil referral unit. That's alternative education, I guess, for students who aren't quite fitting into the mainstream setting. So that could be SEN, but obviously you have SEN schools as well. But it's often behaviour needs as well. And these schools, both SEN and PRU, both usually have smaller class settings, lots of support, can be obviously quite challenging work, but super rewarding as well. And then, yeah, those last points there as well. Obviously, we have co-ed and single-sex schools and your faith-based schools, Christian or Catholic or Jewish, lots of different religions in London.
Perfect. So we're going to go on to, I guess, setting you up for success with some CV examples and things like that. But first, we'll just touch on things like your personal preferences and subject preferences when it comes to looking for roles. Some people might not have any preferences, really. They're pretty open to, like teaching across any primary age. Some people are definitely more specific in what they want, but it's really good to have a think about, what type of school you'd like to work in. Would you like to work in, quite a large state school, more of like a smaller, maybe community school, things like that. Have a think about like student behavior, things like that. Subjects if you're wanting to teach, for example, if you're a science teacher, junior or senior science, or like quite the niche things. It really helps us, place you and help you find your ideal role if you have a bit of a clear idea, I guess, on what you're looking for in a school and your ideal role. When it comes to CVs, it can be a bit tricky sometimes to get it all right, but really you just want to make sure you have a clear structure and you do sound human, especially in your teaching philosophy. I know ChatGPT, I use it all the time, but there's definitely words that that uses that anyone can kind of tell that is from ChatGPT. Good to include a little bit of your out of school interests as well. Put a bit of personality in your CV, and good to explain any gaps you have in your CV if you do have them. For example, lots like James said before, lots of people are leaving now. They're traveling Europe for a couple months and then they're heading to the UK come September. So good to include 4 months travel or whatever it might be on it. This is an example of what not to do on a CV. This is my colleague Rosie. She's in Melbourne on our perm team. She's used this lots of times. She is a teacher, obviously from New Zealand. She moved to Melbourne with us, and so she uses this example quite often. Is kind of not what to do. It's not bad, just things like you don't need to include a photo on your CV. You really want to highlight your teaching experience a lot more. You can see down the very bottom that she's kind of put in very basic 8-week practice. She's a great teacher for this at a school, but doesn't really outline what kind of school was it, what she has the year levels on there, but doesn't really go into any achievements and things like that, which we want to see on there. Compared to this one, this is our CV template which we can send out to you. It's pretty easy to follow. It has your name, your teacher of XYZ, include some teaching qualities which help us again sell you to the school, a little bit of your teaching philosophy, it's in there, short, sharp and shiny, your qualifications on there, and you want to include in your teaching experience your dates of employment. So not just 2021, you want to put January 2021 till December 2022, for example. Good to have the months and the years in there. Some people don't teach for a full year, or they do contracts and things like that. You want to include obviously what year groups and subjects did you teach, did you take any extracurricular activities, things like any key achievements on there, and if you had any lessons or valuable lessons that you took away from that experience. I know we have a few teaching assistants that are on this as well. So obviously you haven't got any teaching experience, but in there you can just put education-based experience and just include that too. It's really good to highlight as much of that as possible up the top of the CV part. And then, at the bottom, you can go into any other employment that you've had. I know for our compliance for the UK, you need to cover from when you finished high school. So good to include all that. I know I had random jobs through through uni and things like that, just to put in there. And then, right at the bottom, you want to put any additional information that you think might be valuable for a school to know about you. Things like if you did Duke of Edinburgh Award, you're a water polo champion at school, things like that, speech and drama, XYZ. Yeah, like I said before, it's good to show that you're actually a human and a bit of your personality on there. And also a really important step, part of your profile informing that is having a professional headshot. This goes out to school, so you want to make sure that you're happy for head teachers and head of departments, etc., to see these photos. This is what we market you out to school. So yeah, if you have a school photo, that's always perfect. Something that's well lit, dressed professionally, and whatnot. But yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Liv. Just to follow on from you as well, I think someone might have asked a question if you could email out the CV templates. So I'm sure that won't be a problem.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, so interviewing within a UK school, I think just the main thing to take away is to not to panic, to take it pretty chill. I think the whole process of going through an agency like ANZUK UK is beneficial for this process. Obviously, if we set you up for an interview, we can take you through a step-by-step process beforehand to make sure you're all up to speed and comfortable with the process. As kind of James touched upon before as well, we can offer, online interviews if you're still traveling and you're wanting to land a job before you get here. Obviously, in-person interviews as well. But we have a whole process in which we can take our educators through. You ask any questions you want to ask. We can run through dummy interviews with you and kind of give you feedback moving forward to give you the best possible chance of landing that role as well. So, but yeah, nothing out of the ordinary there. Just research in which we'll provide you the information about the school, knowing yourself, your CV, having maybe a few questions that you want to ask as well about the school, because also flipping that lens on, you want to make sure it's the right school for yourself, as well as the school wants to make sure you're the right candidate for them. So maybe having a few questions up your sleeve to ask away. Cool. And as mentioned before, we can run you through this. Your consultant would run you through this before your interview and take you through some example questions and things that might be fired at you within that interview process to help best prepare yourself. But here's just a few main ones. I mean, again, shouldn't be anything out of the ordinary. Your qualities, why you want to teach in the UK. If schools want to see, I guess, commitment, passion, drive, all that sort of stuff. So, but just going and being positive and being yourself, I think is the main key point.
Thanks, George. Yeah, also just on the interviews as well, I guess another part that that comes with the interview is obviously when you do get here, schools like to meet people in person. So whether that's you might end up taking a lesson for an hour or something, just so that you can see if the role's right for you as well. So also tagged onto the interviews there is like often a trial as well, which is beneficial for not only you but also the school. But yeah, so benefits of accepting a role before you arrive. As you can see there, I think for me, when I was coming over, I really needed to have that job before I got here, just mostly for that peace of mind, knowing that, while I was, looking for a flat or, trying to fund my travel, at least I've got that job already lined up, which is a big tick. Helps with, the financial planning as well, of course. We do offer flight reimbursement as well. So obviously that's if you're coming over with ANZUK UK, we can help you pay some of that flight back as well, which is always very nice.
Yeah, cool. Pay rates. So one of my favorite topics. Basically, in terms of long-term placement work in schools over here, everyone's paid to scale, which you guys can Google anytime that you want. You just type into Google London teacher scale and it will come up M1 to 6, which basically just means 1 year experience through to 6 years experience. And then you have something called UPS 1, 2, and 3, which is like your senior leadership sort of roles, extracurricular, that sort of thing. So if you're just general teaching, if you've got 6 years experience or more, you shouldn't be paid any less than that M6 rate. And I think in September as well, it's going to go up another 4%, all teacher rates as well. So just something to keep in mind. For supply teaching as well, our rates start at 150 PAYE for supply teaching, and they go up to about 165, potentially 170 PAYE for daily supply. Now, that other option there, umbrella, not to confuse you too much, but you do have an option between PAYE and umbrella. They're both completely legit options. PAYE is basically just paid directly through the agency, where umbrella is a third-party payroll company. I think just the main key point, without going into too much depth on the two, the takeaway is that the umbrella rate on paper is 14% higher, 1-4. And that's just because they take an admin fee for doing your finances, as that's how they make their profit as a company. So we obviously add that 14% on if you're going to choose umbrella to negate that admin fee. So the money that would end up in your account would be the same. But I think it is a key important fact to note down, just because if you are seeing things online, maybe if you are hearing from a few different teachers that might be working in different agencies, can be quite confusing, because people will tell you, you know, I'm on this rate, and it might seem higher on paper, but after that 14% takeaway, it can be lower than, you know, a PAYE rate that you might be on. So I think a couple of questions came through. Yeah, so if you are like a new teacher, you'll just be straight on the M1 rate. It's usually to do with your full-time experience. And saying that, rates can be negotiated with schools, you know, higher or lower, depending on, you know, if you really like the role and the school didn't want to pay that as much. If you were happy to step into that role in a lower pay rate, some teachers do that, and vice versa. If you think, you know, you want to push for a slightly higher rate as well, you know, we can do that on behalf of you, putting that forward to the school. So yeah, it's not like a set in stone thing, but I think it's a great guideline in terms of you shouldn't really be paid anything less than that, in line with your experience, unless obviously you wanted to take a potential pay cut due to the role or the proximity or whatever it might be. But again, that's completely up to yourself. The other one, I used to work in London 10 years ago before moving abroad to teach. The London on an M6, what salary can I expect if I want to teach outside of London? I guess, yes, same sort of thing. I'm not 100% sure on this teacher scale outside of London, just because I do work on the London office. I assume it will be something similar, because again, kind of touching on what I just said, you have more experience or higher experience. You know, you can obviously negotiate a higher pay rate if you're not obviously taking on those senior leadership roles through that UPS stuff. Yeah, and it can apply to part-time as well. Thanks, Christina. It's more so to do with your teaching responsibility. So if you're working 2 days a week, but you're planning, marking, meetings, all that sort of stuff, you know, you should be paid to scale. But yeah, I mean, we can answer a few.
Yeah, I was going to say, George, just on that last question there as well, part-time definitely does apply to as well. I think your rate is dictated by your responsibilities at the school. So, for example, George and I work with a teacher who only works 2 days at a school, but it's like he has the full responsibilities. He's planning lessons, he's marking, he's expected to help with reports, that kind of thing. And because of that, he's paid to scale. Whereas if you are just going in to cover sickness and you're not doing any planning or marking, things like that, then that's when you're paid your supply rate, which is kind of like discussed through your registration when we look at experience, all that kind of stuff. So I think the easiest way, like when I came over as a teacher, the easiest way to remember it is, yeah, if you're accepting the full responsibilities of a teacher, then you're getting paid fully as a teacher. It's a little bit different back home, right? When you're doing just general relief teaching or supply, like you're still kind of the pay's adjusted, so it's quite even, and you kind of get more on the daily basis, but it's not the same over here in the UK.
Yeah, I was going to
So,
say.
you know, just oh,
Oh, sorry. No, you go,
sorry.
George.
I was
There you
just
go.
going to say, just to follow on from that, I forgot to mention as well, London is also split. I know for some of you that might be moving to other regions, but London in particular is split into two regions as well, so inner and outer, and they will have two different pay rates and scales just because inner London, which is about zones 1 and 2, seem to be slightly more expensive living cost. So you do get paid slightly more if you work in an inner London school compared to an outer London school. And usually if you're not sure, you can always ask, but you can always just Google the school and, is this school in or out of London, and it should tell you as well. But yeah, and then in terms of the rates that you'd be looking at for a M1 teacher, I believe it starts just shy of about £200 per day. That's obviously with your holiday pay inclusive. That works out to be about an annual salary of about £39,000. As mentioned as well, these rates, I believe, will be going up 4% in September as well. So it'll be slightly higher than that. And your M6 rate is a bit over £50,000 per year. So you can see the discrepancy there.
Yeah, I was just going to include in the UK, you are paid more on a contract on that full time than if you were doing supply, which is different to Australia because you're paid pretty high doing CRT here. So that is like definitely a big difference that lots of teachers that we work with, that's what they notice. So yeah, something just to make note of as well. Cool. Let's move on.
So just to go on to some work opportunities, obviously we've been talking about more long-term positions and, interviewing for long-term positions when you come over, but that is only one of three kind of options that you have here as a teacher. So long-term contract, pretty self-explanatory, you accept the role, you're working full-time, or I guess part-time, long-term as well, part-time or full-time at one school. You accept the responsibilities of the teacher and you get paid to scale as well. A little bit different to that is the fixed term contracts. So this can be anywhere from 4 weeks to 2 months, 3 months. It's kind of up to the school or up to the educator as well. In this position, it's very likely that you'd still be paid to scale because if you're teaching in the same classroom or in the same subject for more than 4 weeks, you probably are going to pick up those extra responsibilities that I've already talked about as well. So fixed term and long term are both usually you're paid to scale. However, with a fixed term contract, that can sometimes still be on a supply rate, depending on what the details of the specific role actually are. And then obviously you have your supply or relief teaching, as it's called back home, which is just that day to day. You're accepting bookings in the morning or the day before, things like that, covering sickness, etc., etc. Supply is, I have to say, probably one of the best ways, well, another really good way to find long-term roles. So my advice is if you are looking for a long-term contract and for whatever reason you're not going to be here in time for interviews, or you're going to be here, you're arriving just after September, etc., or later in the year, and you might not be able to walk straight into a long-term position, give supply a go, get out to the schools. They love hiring people who they've seen before. So supply, not only you get to check out different areas of London and different schools and different ages and figure out what is really for you. But it just really opens the door for some long-term opportunities as well.
Right. And then yeah, we're just put some hot jobs in here. So these are a few of the many jobs that we've kind of got going across our offices. We have them all on our website. But yeah, if you just inquire with our team, we can obviously let you know more about those. But yeah, I guess just to sum everything up and around how we can support you, we are a free service. So yeah, having those like PD opportunities with social events in the UK as well as in like Australia. I know we have them in Melbourne. And yeah, really there to support you throughout your whole journey. And that could be with work in Australia or like if you're in the UK, obviously, and then coming home, vice versa. helping you with like any preparation in terms of like, interviewing your application, and yeah, just helping you work towards your goals, whichever that might be. Everyone's looks a little bit different. And then yeah, obviously we have that £500 bonus as well, once you've worked 60 shifts, which is pretty much like I think it's a school term over there. But yeah, I guess to finish up, is there any questions or?
We did have a couple in the chat here, Liv. The first
Oh yeah.
one was, do long-term contracts include holiday pay? Yes, that's right. So your pay is inclusive of, I think it's about 14% holiday pay. So you don't get paid over the holidays. That's if, when you're working with an agency, you get paid for the days that you work, and it's obviously adjusted to include that holiday pay. Next question there is, can you do supply and part-time work at the same time? Absolutely, you can. If you've got a 2-day a week role, then you can just hop onto our app, or and we can get in touch for day-to-day bookings and things like that. I do have to say the part-time opportunities are less common and less frequent than the full-time ones that come up. I'm sure you're all teachers, that consistency is really important for schools and kids, but it does happen. So you can definitely do both. Early year teachers, do you want to jump on that one, George?
Yeah, I was just, before I jump into that, I guess wanted to follow on from your long-term contract, including holiday pay, just to be super clear. Your end salary, no matter if you were with a school or with an agency, would be the exact same. Your daily rate, as James mentioned, would just be higher to negate not being paid over the holidays. In saying that, we do have the odd teacher that has opted, as well as been accepted by the school, to be paid throughout the holidays, but on a lower rate. So the option can be there, but I guess it doesn't really make a huge difference in terms of your end takeaway. Early years teachers, yeah, 100%. We work with nurseries, primary schools, secondary schools, everything in between. So even the odd holiday camp as well, which obviously if you want the extra work through then we could potentially provide, as well as, you guys could always go and find a specific holiday camp elsewhere closer to home maybe as well. Liv, did you want to take the next one?
The sick days? I have no.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many sick days you get in the UK. Do you know? I would have no clue. That would be if you go permanent, I guess. Like if you go permanent with the school, then that would be like dependent on them. I'm not sure. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. So if you went permanent with the school, in terms of the school basically bought you off the agency, then I obviously would be contracted in with your school. With an agency, you don't in particular get per se sick days. When you're sick, obviously, and it all depends on the situation that you have with the school. But if I would say in general, if you're off for a sick day, you probably wouldn't be paid for that day. If you're off for 3 days or more in a row, you can apply for sick leave through the government. Now that's going to be like a much lower percentage in terms of what you would actually take home if you're at school, but it does cover a little bit of cost. I think that's if you're sick for 3 days or more. We do have some schools, as mentioned as well, that if you're booked in for the whole year, they will potentially cover some of those days as well, and that's obviously all negotiated at the time. But yeah,
and then also we probably should mention with contracts, unless you are gone permanent with the school, you are still employed like through ANZUK UK. I think that's like quite. Is that right? So you're not like contracted, like you're obviously contracted to the school, but you're still like we still pay you each week and things like that. You're not like on the school books as such. Yeah, just to make that
correct.
clear, because that's different here in Australia.
Yeah, and I think that just kind of adds or is beneficial in terms of the flexibility that it can offer as well. If you jump into a long-term role and for whatever reason it's not working out, or you wanted to move around because the school hasn't taken you on permanently, it's a lot easier for you to come to us and potentially find you another role if it's not going to plan.
Yeah, perfect. And then the last question there is just around the permanent residents and citizens of Australia. You just need to have working rights in the UK, whether, depending on what visa that might be. Sponsorship can be a route. It's pretty tricky, slash like, next to none, unfortunately. But yeah, there are a few different visa options for that. But yeah. Are there
But
any
yeah,
other...
we work with everyone, not just Aussies and Kiwis. It's
Yeah.
people who are already in
No.
London, people from, if you, no matter where you're from, if you want to get in the classroom, you can just contact us and we can help you out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably not a question that I'm qualified to answer, sorry.
Towards your VAT, it can. It depends, with your hours and things. Yeah, that will go towards that. Your VAT, Christina, yeah. Yes, you'll need evidence, which you can provide, through like pay slips, and if you do any PD, we provide PD opportunities and things like that. So you'll better provide that for your hours as well. Cool. Any other questions? But I guess we'll be sending a copy of this out by the end of the week with slides. But if you have any questions, please just do send them through. Our team are obviously happy to kind of get that process started. If you haven't got the process started with us yet, and looking forward to September. Esther, we can go through things like visas. I'll send you through an email. We can touch base and go through that. But any other questions before we sign off for the night or day? Support for visa applications. So we can help we have a support team who can help you if you are doing the youth mobility visa or your ancestry visa. It's an extra $150, but Sharon, she's a godsend. She does all of that for you to help you with that. So and the next event in London, I don't know when that will be. We just had one in London.
That's a good
2
question.
weeks ago.
We just had one, I think it was last week, maybe the week before. So our marketing team, they're amazing and they're super onto it with organizing their events and everything. I'm sure they'll be releasing some more information in the next month or so. I imagine they might do an end of year thing, but I imagine they'll probably do one at the start of September or around that time to welcome everyone who has arrived. We do them quite frequently, but right now with everyone traveling and things like that, not often the best time. But as I said, there's probably something coming up for like an end of year event as well. So if you are here, early enough, you might be able to join that as well. Yeah. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we'll finish that there. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you learned some tips. And we'll finish it up. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
See ya.